What does it mean to pursue an idea as an innovator, to develop it and make it a reality? Modernization, alteration, modification, and contraption all define innovation. But how do you actually characterize an innovative person? With so many different definitions, what makes these individuals so unique? All you need is an idea and the right attitude. What is innovation? What is success? People have been trying to answer this question for decades. What qualities make a tired, struggling college student living off of instant ramen a successful influencer, or even the founder of their own company? Clarkson University, a small private college in northern New York, prides itself on its resources for student and faculty innovators. Anyone can be an innovator. It doesn't take a bunch of money or resources to become one. All you need is an idea and the right attitude. But the big question is, once you have an idea, what are you going to do with it?
Coming from the modeling industry at the time, I was really one of the few people that were talking about the behind the scenes stuff, that were talking about undergarments and things that might not necessarily come across as glamorous.
I went from nothing to having my own lab space, having a great mentor who became my co-inventor on this project.
What's really unique about Birch Boys is not that we took something from nothing in terms of the product. We definitely are making something out of nothing in terms of the process and the infrastructure to sustainably source chaga and actually provide that to people.
One thing that really inspired me was acids. Injuries related to acids are so common in the chemical industry, and we really work with it all the time.
We found that we could just take an existing wooden core, essentially router out these channels in it, throw the stuff inside, smash the ski together, and it worked. When we first tried it, we tried doing full sheets of it, layers. We tried putting it in between the stringers of the wood core.
Being an average size woman in America, that kind of has set me apart in the past from other people doing a similar thing, is because I think I'm able to relate and connect to people a little bit more than maybe someone who is a different size. But with that said, I think there's something out there for everyone.
Actually, my freshman year when I was in the chemistry lab, I remember working with sulfuric acid, and I was actually working with it. Even if you're wearing gloves, it'll start to tingle your fingers. And I was a freshman, so I had no idea what was going on. I went over to the TA and I was like, hey, what the heck is going on here? And they basically were like, oh, that's normal. That's part of your everyday life. Your PPE isn't always going to protect you. You're going to have to be aware of what you're working with all the time.
Figuring out how to do these manufacturing processes one by one in totally new ways. It's how do you grind chaga? How do you dry chaga? There are a lot of unique things that there really aren't solutions for, and that is more of where I built something out of nothing.
One thing we do, we actually let people download all our blueprints in our skis, because it says yeah, we're so confident in our skis, we're so confident in our patent and our attorneys that here's literally here's the blueprint of our skis.
I graduated actually in the midst of the beginning of COVID, and I had to get my own lab space. I moved down here to where I live now, Pittsburgh, PA, and I had to research to find out where to get a lab space. How do I even get a lab space? Where are they available? So I ended up joining an incubator here called LifeX Labs, and they just opened their own lab space. I was the first member to be welcomed into the lab space.
Our drying room is basically just a closet with dehumidifiers running, and that pulls all of the moisture out of it. That's something we developed from trial and error. When we collect chaga, we have hundreds of pounds of it. It's more than you can put in a dehydrator. The grinding, the chaga is so hard. It's almost as hard as a rock. We actually use this ancient 5 horsepower meat grinder. And of course we have tea machines, but we also make tinctures, and we've developed a really unique extraction process for that.
I realized we don't own our social media. So our accounts can be taken away or taken down tomorrow. And then for me, it's okay, then who am I? What do I have to stand for? So that's when I created my blog, my website, and now I kind of view it as like the trunk of the tree. So that's like my home base where you'll always be able to find me. And then my social media are kind of the branches of that tree where you can follow me on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform suits you best. But if it all goes away tomorrow, you can find me on my website.
I've been working out of that lab space by myself for about a year now. And now we are in the midst of our first 4 customer tests and our MVP is done, which is really exciting.
The most important step an innovator must take is formulating an idea. Inspiration can take many forms and come from almost anywhere at any given moment.
One day when I was mowing my grandmother's lawn, after I was finished, I was thirsty. I came inside to get a drink and I found this big jug of iced tea. I poured myself a glass. She came in and saw. She told me I was drinking chaga.
When I was a senior in high school, I was a finalist in a modeling competition. Freshman year, I was already committed, planning on going to Clarkson. I kind of just went to Clarkson, fashion capital of the world in Potsdam, New York. Somehow managed to create a little bit of a side hustle.
We have ample resources to help students out. That's not what existed when I was a freshman. When I was a freshman, the innovation office was a small office in the business building that didn't really have much outreach.
You're sitting in class and this guy, he's one of my favorite professors because he was like so straightforward. I'm going to teach you this stuff and either you're going to figure it out or you're not. But that guy changed my life. It's like he just introduced this thing and I just happened to be sitting in class and be like, well, that'd be kind of cool in a ski and snowboard. So we researched to see if anybody else had done it.
My idea originally came from, when I was in the 7th grade, I was listening to my teacher, Mr. Durr, talk about the semi-permeability of cells. He was basically talking about how they can detect danger and produce the exact solution to it. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a force field that could do that. As I went to college, I decided to become a chemical engineer. I was like, I want to create a new material.
The idea for like Renown was still like really, like, I wouldn't even say half-baked. It was just like a concept at the time and no one had done it. And initially, yeah, it was just like a back of the brain, this like, side project, this side thing we're testing. And it really wasn't until like a year into the, like actually starting to build skis that we're just like, you know what? If we're just gonna build skis based on like better engineering, we're screwed. Like we're never gonna be better than anybody else.
I went and pitched to 8 professors to get lab space to investigate this idea. And that's what led me to Dr. Richard Parch. I pitched to him this idea. He loved it, and he allowed me to work in his lab for the next 4.5 years on this project.
But what happens when you don't succeed and hit that standstill in development?
I was actually scheduled to go out on this survival TV show called Alone. We were led to believe that we were going to be shipped out on this TV show basically when I would have been starting my first semester of my 2nd year at Clarkson. And I also came from a place financially where I didn't have any plan to afford that semester. So it was kind of like a win-win, and mark my words, I would have won the $500,000. So then I would have been able to come back and afford the rest of my schooling. But we ended up getting booted from the show about 2 weeks before August 1st. So all of a sudden, in between my 1st and 2nd year, I was in this situation where not only my dream was kind of crushed, but at the same time, I really did not have the money to go back to school.
Right before our first investment, actually a couple weeks before, I actually got down to my last $100, which was terrifying and scary as heck. We were right on the verge of investment and I was literally going nowhere.
The first question this casting director asked me was, how many followers do you have on Instagram? And I was so kind of taken aback by that being such an odd question at the time. And I proudly stood up and I said, well, I have 10,000 followers. And he laughed in my face and said, well, you better step it up, honey. So that for me was kind of like that pivotal moment where I was like, okay, what is social media? Why does it matter to my career? And how can I get better at it? How can I grow this?
There was 5 other guys that we all started the company at the same time. First, like 18 months or 12 months or something like that. We're still scratching out freaking business plans and have these like grand visions and ideas. When I dropped out, I just like started doing it full time. And pretty quickly, it just became apparent that I was doing 95% of the work behind everything. So I ended up asking them all to leave. It was crazy. It was super, super hard. I fired with my 5 best friends.
What do you do when you get rejected? Should you let that stop you? Perseverance makes up the defining trait associated with innovators. It's these moments of climbing their way out of rock bottom scenarios that push innovators to make an important step towards success. Don't be afraid to take that leap of faith. And if you fall, you just have to get right back up.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. Like there's tons of days where I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, but you have to embrace the silliness of it. The idea that we're humans that can come up with an idea that has no precedent, and then we can do it. We have the technology. I can go to my developer and say, hey, I want to make the pop-up purple, and I want it to say like, hello there, co-conspirator. Like, what a ridiculous notion that we can create that.
So I was very lucky. When I was a sophomore in college, I was actually given a co-op where I worked for a company called Barton International, where I was taught to just do that, to be a college student and to talk to large companies. I actually remember this phone call that we had. So my job was to basically, we had these new engineer materials and I had to find 6 new markets for them. And so I remember getting on a phone call with a $4 billion company. And this is before the days of Zoom, okay? We were on the phone. And so they all went around and introduced themselves. And every single person was like, I'm so-and-so, I have 20 years of experience in the industry. This is what I do for this company. And I was like, wow, like, and they get to me and I'm like, I'm a sophomore in college. I'm on co-op right now, working for Barton International. And we're really excited about this new product that I'm really excited to tell you about. And they were like, go for it, pitch to us. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrifying.
I would reach out to 50 brands a day. I would send 50 DMs a day, like, hey, Anthropologie, I really love your dresses. They fit me so well. I think my audience would absolutely love if I featured one of your dresses in an upcoming post that I'm working on.
So I pitched them. They ended up testing our material, which was really great. I ended up getting 8 test sites for Barton for their new project, which is actually doing really great today.
And I was just constantly hustling in the DMs, like sending messages. And so then eventually I got to the point where I have incredible selling power.
I ended up going to Erin Draper, the head of Clarkson's Ray Center for Entrepreneurship, and I asked her if I could intern for myself selling chaga, and she actually said yes. So that was pretty incredible.
Success is only defined by yourself. Your success cannot be compared or defined by others. It is only measurable by you. Success starts and ends with you.
Indie innovation to me is not only creating something out of nothing, but creating something that can be shared with thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people for a good cause. I think that's very important because, you know, in this industry, at the end of the day, what I do is heal people, and each of our products has a different benefit. So there's ways to innovate in a way that solely makes money. Some of our competitors are doing that. They're growing chaga on artificial substrates with patented techniques. I really do think that it's important to connect with nature in every area of our lives. And I think that you can't have innovation without having a really good raw material to start with. Indie innovation is not only creating something that's lucrative, but creating something that people love.
For me, it's important to take a step back and bird's eye view, look at the past 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, and be able to see how far I've come. And at this point, today, I feel, yeah, I'm successful. The fact that I'm able to run this company through one of the most difficult years is a success.
The whole, like, even the term, like, working hard is like a total cliche, but yeah, I mean, no one, there's a few people I know who are doing really well because they got really, really lucky. But unless you plan on being like super lucky, That's like the stupidest plan I've ever heard. So in the meantime, you gotta go work hard.
He was like, put your CEO face on. I don't have a CEO face. I have a Matthew Baroyak face, and I like to be myself. And like, sometimes that means that I come off childish or the age that I am, which is the ripe age of 24. I don't, there's no need for me to act 50 years old with 30 years of experience. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to show the world who I am, not be someone who I'm not. And to me, indie innovation is taking everything that you are, every goal that you have, and making it a reality, no matter what resources are put in front of you. I had to pitch to people who had lots of experience, who weren't afraid to rip you apart. I remember one specific experience where I got ripped apart very badly, and I felt really bad. I felt embarrassed. But years later, the same person came up to me and he was like, "Hey, like you've grown a lot. Like good for you for like keeping on, and like you obviously know what you're talking about now." And it's like you have to be not scared to learn. And somebody's gonna look at you in the face and say you're not experienced enough, and that's okay. It's tough, it's risky, it's scary, but like it's the biggest thrill I've ever had in my entire life.
And so I think leaning into the wonderful, truly like full of wonder thing that is indie innovation, the fun that's in there is so critical, because that will come through in your messaging, that will come through in if you bring on employees, they will feel that joy. You will grow a sense of joy around your innovation that lends it to be even more remarkable, even more incredible. And I think of a very funny sentence, right? I got in my Uber, I checked my Whoop strap before my Peloton. And, like you can just think of all of the innovations we use every day. They're made up words. Like that's what innovation is. It's making up things and then making them come to fruition. And I think that's what's fun and impossible about this whole idea of indie innovation.